What's going on? What's going on? Hey, man, we're gonna go ahead and get started with this live. I'm just sitting up here listening to my favorite artist of 2025. Shout out to Big Matthew Play. Telling you. Anyways, no, I'm in my nice, semi-casual, semi-professional. How do I look? All right? Semi-professional today. I'm going to try to go ahead and tone it down. Today I actually really want to have a professional conversation. I normally literally try to, I try to bring the energy. I try to bring this, bring you guys this energy, man, and just take it up a notch to a level, that you guys can just feel, because it's in the Word of God I read, it says that, Jesus' word is spirit and his word is life. And so, the one thing that, the Lord has really made me cautious about is making sure that I'm using my words to speak life into everyone. And, today as I'm doing this live, what I want to talk about is three things. I want to talk about family. I want to talk about finances, and I want to talk about your future. In the Word of God that I read, it says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Unfortunately, today, people are not, a lot of people, I'd say at least 99.9% of, the population is not positioned to be able to live and to fulfill, that Word of God, which is leaving an inheritance for their children's children. I know there's going to be some people out there who want to be so spiritually great, they're no earthly good, and they want to go, brother, the best inheritance you can leave for everyone is the Word of God. And I agree. The Word of God, salvation, the blood of Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, all those things are incredibly important right here on earth. Because after our time, our limited time on this earth is gone, all that's going to be irrelevant, man. You're either going to be serving a lifetime sentence in hell of punishment, or you're going to be literally praising the Lord for eternity, the rest of your life. And so what I really want to be able to emphasize today is, when I'm talking about leaving an inheritance for your children's children, I'm talking about being able to make sure that your household, that your family, that your great-grandchildren know who you are. Because you went ahead and made a decision in which would be similar to the decisions in which the Rockefellers made, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the DuPonts, J. Paul Getty's family, the Waldens, Bill Gates, the Bezos. I want to have a high-level conversation with you in regards to leaving a financial blessing. See, no longer does poverty need to be the legacy that's passed down from generation to generation. See, the worst thing that can happen is you work all your life, and everyone says, well, money's not everything. HD, I heard that money's the root of all evil. And, I agree with everything the Word says, but I also have a second question for you. If that's true, then why are you spending the best days, the best hours of your life working for it? Okay, we're having a conversation now, and I'm happy. Because, I wanted this to be very uncomfortable for you. I don't want this to be something in which, you're looking at going, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's not about ego. I want to start talking about facts today, okay? I was blessed last week, I believe it was Thursday evening, to be on a leadership call, and it was a business presentation and for this company in which I want to talk to you about today called Vibe, VYB, and it stands for Visualize Your Breakthrough. See, right now today, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to your spirit man. I want to talk to your mental man. I want to talk to your spirit man. And I want to have a conversation about financial freedom, spiritual freedom. I want to have a conversation with you about emotional freedom. See, it's kind of hard to have freedom when, you have debts piling up over your head. I've been there before. And I've also been blessed as a financial consultant working the mortgage and banking industry, where I was blessed to be able to help people get out of those situations. I was paid to be able to help them, lower their debt load, lower their interest rate. lower their stress level, send them on vacation, as well as I was able to teach them one step further. See, I got paid to help them with their mortgage, but it's the effort that I took outside of that that blessed a lot of families I worked with. I sat down and we looked at a financial plan. We look at that, with the amount of savings in which they're able to save anywhere between $300 to some people even $700 a month. We looked at what if we went ahead and put an extra $200 or $300 a month, into a particular asset that would allow them to be able to start creating money. See, these are conversations I want to have with you. Today, I'm just outside enjoying the beautiful weather. You got the sun behind me, just a little bit of a cool breeze, which is perfect. As you can see, the sun is kind of beaming down on my bald head. Got my professional glasses on. And you know what? What I really would love to do is just start off this conversation, because it's just a conversation. And I'd like to start off saying, if you had all the time and all the money to live however you want, what would you do different? I really want you to think about that. If you didn't have to wake up, at the crack of dark, 4:30 or 5, ladies out there, you didn't have to wake up at dark, 500, take a shower, stumble out the shower, dry off, got the blow dryer doing your hair, sitting there looking in the mirror, stretching out your lips, stretching out your eye, doing your makeup, having to do all that at dark, 5 in the morning. And the reason I'm picking on ladies right now is because, these days in 2025, what I've really noticed is there's a lot of women who, they're go-getters. A lot of the women out these days, this generation, they're go-getters. And a lot of them, if you will just show them a vehicle to go ahead and connect with their dreams, man, they're going to go get it. Unfortunately, these days, I'm 50 years old. There's a lot of young men who, they're not quite as go-getting as they were when we were younger. And I know my generation wasn't quite the go-getters of my father's generation. And I know my dad's generation wasn't quite the go-getters of my grandfather's generation. And, what I want to just talk to you guys about is, if you had that time, if you had that money, how would you live? I did a video, go back and look at the live I did on Saturday. On Saturday, I had an opportunity to walk through downtown Vancouver in Canada and, in a beautiful province of British Columbia. And I was walking down, Alberni Street, and we were seeing Cartier and the Prada store, and we got to look at a beautiful Tiffany's, and we were on Robson Street, and we got to see, beautiful the G-Wagon, Mercedes truck. We got to see the beautiful Audi, and we got to see a Lexus. And, I remember when we were overlooking at Cartier, I walked by a beautiful red Ferrari. And it just dawned on me, it's one of those things that it's not even cliche-ish, but it's almost sad, because a lot of people these days are so busy, being broke, that they don't take the time to expand the vision, to expand the dream. They don't understand the power of what you put in your mind, the power of what you focus on. It actually starts attracting those things into your life. If you sit there on social media and you're just swiping all day, you don't realize the things that you're swiping all day is actually entering your eye gate, growing into your heart, going into your spirit, and it's creating, a lens, a gargles. It's a focus. And those are the only things you start to see out in this beautiful real world, So if you're able to go ahead and do like I did Saturday, spend quality time going out there, touching your dream, seeing what the price tag on is that brand new BMW. Go see what the price tag on that brand new Range Rover. Go out there, to the open house that's going on in the exclusive gated community neighborhoods in your city. Go see what that $5 million house looks like inside. Go touch that walk-in closet. I encourage you to do that. And for my professional doctors, my lawyers, my professional real estate agents and mortgage brokers, what? This is a conversation I want to have with you today. For all those principals and those professors who are already tenured, I want to have a heart-to-heart with you. Because, there's some things we learned in school, and it blessed us to be very talented in our skill set. And you know what? For the first 10 years, I'm sure you guys can relate to me. You get very excited because you're out of college. You're finally out there. You're making money. You go to the family reunions and cookouts and barbecue, and everyone's like, hey, nephew, Hey, son, hey, grandson, hey, granddaughter, hey, niece, hey, daughter. We're so proud of you. You went to school, you worked hard in school, you got good grades, you went to college, and after going to college and having good grades, you went out and got a good job, and now you have a successful career. You went out there and, was excited to use that nice, crisp, brand new credit you had, and to be able to go, and some of you are involved in these beautiful country clubs, and, you guys do a lot of your meetings and associating on the golf course, and that's a beautiful thing. But what I want to talk to you about is an opportunity to take your life from just success to significance. Because we're at a crucial time right now in life where you have an opportunity to do the same thing as those who, we look at in America as the Gates, the Gettys, the Waldens, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts. We have an opportunity to do the same thing they did. We have an opportunity to be in that picture that's above that fireplace. And you might be like, HD, life is good. But what I'd like to challenge you is to think at the next generation's coming. It's no secret that, hundreds of thousands of people are being laid off every day throughout all of North America, from Mexico all the way through the United States of America to Canada. And you know what? One of the number one reasons is technology. Okay, technology blessed us to go from the agricultural age where the wealth was in the land to the Industrial Revolution, with the advent of the steam engine and, even more technology, the railroads. We had these big factories and warehouses, and these manufacturers were building all the great things that we see today, and they were shipping it, they were shipping it from one coast to the next coast, through the railroad system. And, and then it was through the semis and the logistics companies, the trucking companies, and then the Federal Expresses and the UPSs. And as technology continued to get faster and better, more sufficient and efficient, what we started to see is a lot of the jobs started getting cut away for the first time ever. These major corporations, that were being built in those urban areas, at one point they had hundreds of secretaries and phone operators answering the phone. And with the technology and the advent of better technology with the telephones and telephone systems, they went ahead and they downsized from 100 operators, that would have been on one corporate floor to 10. Then we started to see, as we went to streamlined distribution, you started to see, centralized location and hubs being expanded through a lot of major corporations throughout North America. So they didn't have to send their products from one side of the coast to the other. And in the process of this taking place, what we saw was, the mom and pop shops and a lot of these strip malls and a lot of these businesses that were in the, mid-America and the Midwest America and the deep South America, all these cities and states in between the East Coast and West Coast that were built during the Industrial Revolution because of all the traffic that was being driven from the West Coast to the left, to the West Coast, to the East Coast, going down that beautiful Highway 66 they talk about in my son's favorite cartoon. Trey, shout out to you. Daddy still loves you, man. He used to love watching cars. And you know what? It was the gift that kept on giving, because my youngest son, Jeremiah, sure enough, another 20 years later, that was his favorite cartoon. And why am I talking about this? Because if you understand where the trends are going, you're able to position yourself. It's kind of like surfing. If you understand when a big wave is coming and you're able to position yourself for that surfboard to ride that wave, you can go ahead and do what, some of the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, the J. Paul Gettys, you could even do just like Jeff Bezos was able to do and create a fortune for your family that's going to last, for your children's children. And that's a conversation I really want to have today, because we're facing a time where technology is changing faster than ever before. Opportunities are coming and going quicker, faster, greater than ever before. This is a time where we've seen they went from the Industrial Revolution to streamlined distribution. I remember when I was in my 20s, direct sales and network marketing was the thing. People were talking about a 2 to 5 year plan, selling their toothpaste, selling their vitamins, selling their makeup. Some of them even had long distance phone companies. Man, you don't even need the long distance phone company or a phone card these days. You can just pick up your cell phone, call anywhere in the world. You know, they got, you know, voice over internet protocol. You know, I'm sorry, HD's geeking out on you right now, but I told you, this is a conversation I'm going to have for the professionals today. It's going to be a little bit of a higher level conversation. We know as that happened, there was millionaires that were made overnight, literally in 12 to 24 months. And from 24 months to, 5 years, we've seen a lot of people who were in middle class America go from making 6 figures to 7 figures because of direct sales. Well, then as things changed in the dot-com era, we've seen a shift, and Jeff Bezos was a perfect example for this shift. He was working in the financial industry, and he decided that, you know what? He saw that there's going to be something really big on this dot-com era, something about putting those 3 W's in a dot, and then the name of a company followed by .com was going to be an opportunity for freedom for those who took advantage of it. You know what? When opportunity met preparedness. And he did that. And he started, you know what? The world's largest distribution of books out of his garage. At the same time, when Starbucks was already connected to Barnes & Noble, literally on corners around every city in the United States and Canada and North America and Asia. Come on, can you imagine what kind of cojones it would take to be able to think that you're going to start a book distribution company and be bigger than Barnes & Nobles and Chapter? But he had vision. And that's why I'm talking to you today. Because I want to know, what's the goal? What's the dream? What's the gift? What's the vision that my Lord and Savior put in your heart that you aren't operating in? Maybe you're doing well financially. Your parents are very proud of you because you're a professional. But you know what? There's a gift that's inside of you that goes from being successful that, you know what, only God is going to be able to bring out, because once you start to act on that gift, you're going to start walking into the realm of significance. And it's when you walk into the realm of significance is when you go from being in that 2 comma club, making 6 figures a month, to that 3 comma club, where you're able to start making millions. And, to that 4 comma club where Bezos, Gates, and they're making the billions of dollars. And this is the perfect opportunity for you to be able to do that. And I say, why is this perfect opportunity? It's because while people have been used to, for the last 40 years, trading their time for money, Robert Kiyosaki said in a book I read 30 years ago in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you got to learn the difference between an asset and a liability. And if you're putting your time and your money on something in which is not giving you back a return on that investment, then you know what? It's a liability. And he talked about what's really important for you to learn is that in the second book, in Cash Flow Quadrant, he spoke about that, for you to be successful, you need to learn to go from being an employee, trading your time for money, to being self-employed, which is a lot of doctors, a lot of lawyers, a lot of real estate agents. It could be some of your financial people, could be your contractors who's building these beautiful homes and stuff. But going from being self-employed, where, now you've bought a job and you're still trading your time for money on the left side, to being able to create leverage, where you're now starting to be able to expand yourself. You have a corporation where you're able to go ahead and hire other people who are looking for jobs. When you're able to now leverage their time to be able to create more money. And then the final part on the cash flow quadrant he spoke about at the bottom right side was for you now to become an investor. And now that's your money working hard for you, in which now you're investing in one of the greatest investments is in business. And the businesses and corporations are hiring people who are going to exchange their time for money. So you have people's efforts bringing you money, as well as your investment bringing you money. And as I talk about that, today I'm going to show you a vehicle that incorporates all that. They're literally going to show you a system in which I'm going to talk to you today about being able to, learn to monetize your gift. Being able to go from step 1 with your dream, with your vision, with your gift, to done. This company, as I said before, the name of the company is Vibe, Visualizing Your Breakthrough. And what the owners have been able to put together is just absolutely nothing greater than just a godsend. Because we're talking about a company in which they've literally networked with over 70,000 entrepreneurs who've all opted in their small but, very efficient, pre-launch, which started in the middle of December, and it actually just ended last week, In the middle of this pre-launch, they had over 70,000 entrepreneurs opted in. And what I want to explain to you is why they opted in. Well, if you look at what's going on with social media today, as we're getting closer to the immediate trend, social media has literally been able to create millionaires overnight. So where direct sales used to be almost kind of like the cheat code, if you got in a direct sales company at the right time in the right place, you were able to turn, your hard-earned work, and instead of working in the 40-40 plan and retiring on 40% of your income by the time you retire, the direct sales industry was blessing people, like I said before, to get into a system in which they had a ready-made business, kind of like a franchise they bought into, and they're able to create leverage, like we talked about on the right side of cash flow quadrant, okay? And they're able to make 6 and 7 figures in a shorter time span. Like I said, in a 2 to 5 year time frame. A lot of people are able to make 7 to 8 figures in that if they got in early enough. Well, today what I want to do is talk about an opportunity for you to do that, but imagine combining the social media. And imagine being able to leverage that opportunity like that when you also be able to get in front of the AI trend before it takes over jobs. You're able to learn how to use AI to help, catapult your dreams, your goals, and your vision to be able to be the next millionaire, multimillionaire, to make that 7, 8, even 9 figures. And that's why we're here today. Okay, so we already had talked about the trends. We talked about, the 40-40 plan. What I want to talk about is something which not a lot of professionals know, because unfortunately in school it's not taught. Okay, it was something I was blessed to be able to learn as a financial professional because I was mentored by millionaires. And they told me a long time ago, you go HD, the most people do not realize after they get to school and they're working really hard, and they're spending money and getting that mortgage and getting that boat and getting those jet skis and going on vacation in the Alps or at Whistler, in the winter, and they're at St. Bart's and, going down to, Barbados or the Bahamas or Jamaica or Cancun in the summer. Most of them aren't aware of the fourth thing that is literally sinking their financial ship until it's too late. And so the thing in which they shared with me was number one, if you're on the left side of cash flow quadrant, if you're an employee, you're a T4 employee, you're a W2 employee, that means that basically you have a job. You're getting taxed 3 times in a year, and most people don't realize that, because you're getting taxed before you get paid your check, okay? Before you get paid that check, boom, they're taking taxes out of it. When you go shopping, they're taking taxes out of that check. And every year, once a year, what happens? It's tax season, and a lot of people start stressing because the more money they make, the more money the government's going to take, unless you own a business. See, those 3 things I just talked about just now, if you own a business, then you're going to get 100% of that dollar when you get paid. And then you're going to have the whole year to be able to spend those dollars in a means to attempt to be able to make a profit. Now, you could say that's networking. You could say it's marketing. It could be dinners you're going out with and looking to work on collaborations and projects with, one of your newest business partners. The bottom line is when you meet with a professional business accountant, they're going to be a professional business accountant who's a tax specialist. They're going to be able to explain what I'm talking to you about. How, as you get that whole $100,000 that year, and say you spend $60,000 of that, and that they're able to show that it was an attempt to be able to make a profit for your business, so you could grow your business so that you'd be able to grow that to a corporation where you're able to hire people, that now becomes a tax write-off. And so what happens is, even though you made that $100,000 here working for yourself, because you spent that $60,000 in efforts to be able to make a profit to grow your business, you're actually going to be at a tax bracket, a business tax bracket of $40,000. Now, compare that to someone who's a W-2 employee or T4 employee. The sad thing is they're going to not even, because of taxes, they're not going to get that full $100,000. They're going to be lucky if they see $60,000 of that after taxes. Okay, and then after they spend all that money, they're going to get taxed when they spend it, and then they're going to have to still pay taxes at that $100,000 level as an employee. Now compare that to over here being a business owner. So that's the first income drain we want to talk about. The second one I want to talk to you about is interest. If you wanted to go to school, your parents wanted to make sure, that you had a very good, successful, career, and they were able to, pay, borrow from Paul or rob Paul to pay Peter to get you through school. You're blessed. But God forbid you took out school loans, when you had to pay the interest back. You took out, say $200,000 to $300,000 to go to, your Harvard, your Stanfords. Maybe you went, to McGill in Canada or UBC. What happens is when you took out those expensive loans, you got interest. You're not going to pay that simple $300,000 in school debt. You're going to have to pay that plus interest. Now let's talk about your car note, your house note. You're going to pay interest on that. And God forbid you want to go on a beautiful vacation for your honeymoon. You go ahead and swipe that credit card. You got to pay interest on that. So now that's the second income drain. The third is insurance. You know, you got to have house insurance, car insurance, medical insurance. Even in Canada, we have deductibles, okay? And last but not least, if you're going to go traveling, God forbid you go to a third world country, you go on vacation and you get sick and you don't have insurance. You better have travel insurance. So those are three income drains. Again, income tax, interest, and insurance. But it's the fourth is the biggie that most professionals aren't aware of. And what is that? That's called inflation. What inflation does, it doubles the cost of living every 10 years. So say if you got out of college this year, congratulations to all those graduates who endured all those classes and those long hours of studying. Now you're the graduate of 2025. I have good news for you. Man, you have an opportunity of a lifetime with all the technology out here today. And you know what? Everyone's looking for you to get ready to get to work. And, you know, you're going to be working harder than all those seniors who came before you. And you know what? But here's the thing. Like them, you're going to be running into something. In 2035, you're going to find out if your income doesn't double, okay? If you don't go from $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year, in 10 years, you're going to be living literally below the standard that you are right now in 2025, because inflation doubles the cost of living every 10 years. That means in 2045, you're going to need to be making $400,000, and in 2055, you're going to need to be making over $800,000 a year just to live at the same level you are right now. So that means right now, if you live in Vancouver and the cost of housing just to get a regular house is, Sylvain, you got to help me with that. Send me a text. Let me know what the average cost of a 3-bedroom, 2,500 square foot home is today. Sylvain is a young man I met just out of high school. He was talking to me about the real estate industry. Now he is one of the #1 real estate agents in Vancouver. Sylvain, I expect a cut of all the people who come calling you because of this live. Anyways, I'm joking. Love you, brother. But anyways, the bottom line is this. That means that, you know what? The cost of living today for this house that may cost $3 million today, in 10 years, it's going to be $6 million. Okay? In 20 years, it's going to be $12 million. In 30 years, it's going to be $24 million. Okay? And in 40 years, it's going to be what? $48 million. So it's doubling the cost. Okay? And so what happens is if you don't have a financial vehicle that is keeping up with inflation, then you can understand clearly why your grandparents are downsizing their house today. Hey, I'm sorry. I told you this is a professional conversation. I'm not going to hold no punches because I'm really want to be able to talk to those people who are serious professionals, who are thinking about their finances, who are thinking about, you know what, I need to go ahead and make some decisions. And you know what? The best decision isn't always just to go to your investment broker, have them stick it in a 401k if you're in the U.S., have them stick it in a RRSP if you're in Canada. Sometimes, you know what, it's not even just sticking it in real estate if you don't know what you're doing. You know, I heard, a lot of my friends who have real estate properties, they call, being a real estate investor who has investment properties, they call it toilets and tenants, because it seems like that's the only time their phone's ringing off the hook is because they got to fix the toilet, and there's always a complaint with the tenant. But you know what I want to show you is a vehicle that allows you to be able to stay within your skill set, stay within your passion, stay within the gifts that God gave you, and teach you how to be able to leverage it. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So the next thing I want to talk about is, and how are we going to do that? Since I'm talking to my professionals today, you guys have a skill set in which, you know what, you guys may or may not know because you guys are working 70 to 80 hours a week. But you realize those who are in the know in technology realize that in today, your skill set, if you were able to go ahead and create a value added course, you would literally be able to change your financial future and add a comma to what you make right now. One more time, I said, add a comma to what you make, because there's 160 countries that's connected to a platform that we call Vibe right now, and they're looking for content creators. I'm not just talking about rappers or singers. I'm not just talking about people who are artists. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about educators. I'm talking about people, who might be business entrepreneurs who have a certain marketing style in their particular field. I'm talking about those individuals who God has given them a gift, and that if they would simply record a value-based education course and connect with a company like Vibe, in which they're able to now upload it online, you have hundreds of thousands of eyeballs in which will be going through Vibe's catalog, and they'll be like, okay, here's a dentist, here's an author, here's a pastor, oh, here's a gentleman who, you know what, he has a car shining business, and you know what, man, I've always wondered, what's the secret to get that special shine and have those rims like that? And if you recorded your particular skill set and partnered with Vibe, went ahead and put it on our Vibe Global, you would be able to monetize that. I'll give you an example. I have a friend down in Dallas, Texas. His name's James, and James is a professional musician. He plays at jazz. He's played at jazz concerts. He's played with your famous jazz musicians. And you know what? He loves music so much, he teaches music as well as he plays in his church every Sunday. Now, when I called James and I told him about this phenomenal opportunity to leverage his gift and to monetize it, the first thing I explained to him, I go, James, imagine if you're able, instead of teaching music classes one-on-one, you're able to go ahead and upload your value-based course that you've created to be able to teach music. And if there was only 1,000 people who opted in to learn music from you in month one, and you charge $20, that would make you an additional $20,000 this month. I said the best part about that is this is a platform that is ever growing. There's 70,000 entrepreneurs have already opted in. So imagine if they're an entrepreneur, they're a business owner. Most business owners, if you're running a real business, have a minimum of 100 customers. So imagine 70,000 entrepreneurs, business owners, they bring their 100 customers with them. Why? Because you know what? It's going to allow them to monetize what they're doing, and it's going to upgrade their relationship with their customers. So now we're talking from not just 70,000 eyeballs, but we're now talking about 7 million eyeballs. Out of those 7 million eyeballs, if 1,000 of those students who opted in to take your class was excited because you were giving them value added, okay, information, education on music, and they were really getting something out of it because you're so good at what you do you think they'd refer one person next month? He was like, obviously. Okay. And so what that meant is the second month that he's offering this class, he would have 1,000 people starting his course, but he'd have another 1,000 now starting his second course, month 2. So that means he'd have 2,000 people, and at $20 per person, I've now showed him how to go from making $20,000 in his sleep, because these are courses he's already recorded, he's already teaching, right? To now making $40,000 the next month in his sleep. Now imagine the third month if everyone just referred one. So now we have 2,000 people, they referred one, there's 4,000 people, they're paid $20 to be able to learn music from my buddy James, okay? Now what do we have? He's making $80,000 a month while he's sleeping, still teaching classes in the daytime because he loves it, still playing his music in the jazz concerts, still playing the bass guitar in church, and he's making already almost $1 million residual in his sleep. That's the opportunity we're talking about. And so you go, HD, how is this possible? It's possible because we have an owner who, she started off as an English teacher over 10 years ago. Her name is Megan Lynch, and we call her the legend maker. Megan Lynch has made well over tens of millions of dollars in the direct sales industry, and she got in the direct sales industry because she had one goal, and that was initially, as an English teacher, she got tired of, students coming to her classroom from the inner city, and you know what, they're mourning, their best friend died or got shot, or they lost a parent, or they lost a loved one, and she said, you know what, she wants to make a difference in her community. Megan is a twin, and her twin sister, Reagan, and her decided to start, an after-school program called SOS, Save Our Sons. Okay, with that program, they're teaching entrepreneurship to those people, who wanted to learn, who are at-risk youth in the inner city and who were in her classroom. And so what happened as they continued to grow this program, they were able to get sponsorship. They went ahead and applied for a government grant for the school, and they received $100,000. Now, here's the twist in the story. When the school got that $100,000, instead of giving it to the program in which they were building, Megan and Reagan Lynch, it was given, the money was spread out between the band, instruments, football team, equipment, etc. And you know, it was heartbreaking. And when she tried to speak with, you know, those in charge of the schools, they basically tried to silence her. And as she's a very passionate woman, very passionate about providing value in her community and helping the students in which she was trying to take them to the next level of entrepreneurship and to keep them safe and get them, you know, out of the streets, you know, she got fired. And one of the smartest decisions she ever made, she decided to get in direct sales. And in the process of getting in direct sales, she learned entrepreneurship. You know what? Man, directly from some very successful entrepreneurs. She literally was blessed to have a mentor that she earned the right to work with, who was making over $45 million a year. In the process of that, she started duplicating her efforts and teaching those who were willing to listen, those who had a big dream, big goal, a vision, those who were coachable and teachable, okay? And those who, you know, had a work ethic, like I said, and big dreams. They had those 3 qualifications, okay? And what she's been able to do is build a phenomenal reputation for herself in the business world. And she's taken that skill set, she's taken the tools, she's taken the mentorship, and she's taken this vision, and she's now aligned herself, you know, with a gentleman who's a multi-millionaire, getting ready to be a billionaire in technology, okay? And they've created this platform with her twin sister, who is literally, I swear, she's literally one of the most phenomenal networkers I've ever known. She's networked with, she's the one who's networked with banks, this technology, other corporations, and the 3 of them came together to build this platform I'm talking about today called Vibe. Visualize your breakthrough. Now imagine this, okay? Imagine being able to have an education platform that also offers business solutions. So they have technology for businesses out there that, you know, they need a website built. Say they need to understand how AI is going to be able to not affect them, but can empower them to be able to make greater profits. Imagine being able to connect that with the platform with health and nutrition and wellness. You know, there's a lot of, you know, say Beachbody has their own technology for you to be able to work out, to be able to get your nutrition plan. Imagine being able to build a platform that encompasses all that in one, and bringing entrepreneurs, content creators, authors, pastors, you name it, all together, including, and this is one of the coolest things ever, because over the last 3 years, what I've been studying with my financial background, I was actually looking at getting ready to go get my Series 6, to be honest with you. Over the last 3 years, I was blessed to be able to get in an entrepreneurship school for investors. Shout out to KPCFX, shout out to King Pip. You know, I love you, King Pip. I appreciate you, man. I've been learning Forex, cryptocurrency. I've been studying investing because I wanted to be able to, I thought that maybe I was going to go ahead and start becoming a professional investor. Not so much on Wall Street, but start my own financial corporation. You know, that's what I was actually looking at before I was blessed to learn about this platform. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do personally with this platform. It's going to be a huge surprise. But let's just say this platform is a blessing because it allows you to take your skill set, your gifts, and learn how to monetize it. They help take you from step 1 to done. If you need help with your branding, you know that they got Vibe Branding. If you have, you know, your own merchandise, and you have your own merch, as they like to call it, the young hip kids. You have t-shirts, hats, you have cups, you know, whatever your heart could dream of, and you want to go ahead and bring it to a platform that can help you get not just accessibility, but the visibility, like my brother Jerome Majette taught me. You know what? This is the platform for you. If you're an author and you've written a book and you've had your book sitting on Amazon for the last 5 to 10 years, it's not making any traction, you understand what I'm talking about. You already have accessibility, but you need the visibility. You need help driving traffic to your book to be able to get that information, that skill set, that knowledge that God is putting you out there. And this is the perfect platform for you. And so what they have here is they have a spotlight called Vibe Spotlight. And with Vibe Spotlight, you know, every week they're going to be spotlighting a new business. They're going to be spotlighting a new author. They're going to be spotlighting a new content creator, new business owner. They're going to be spotlighting people like you, helping you get the visibility you need in 160 countries around the world. Yeah, I said it, 160 countries around the world. You know, honestly, if all Vibe did was just start with their flagship product, you know, with the financial legacy, the financial education school, that would have been great. But the fact that they had the business solutions, the fact that they had health and fitness, the fact that they added branding, and the fact that if you have everything set to go ahead and launch your business and all you need is capital, they created Vi Capital, okay, Vi Ventures, right? They created Vi Ventures. So that's your opportunity to work with venture capitalists who have millions of dollars. They're looking to be able to invest in companies. What did I tell you at the beginning of this presentation? Robert Kiyosaki said in the cash flow quadrant, you got to find a way from going to being an employee to self-employed, start getting leverage as a corporation and an investor. Of course, they have Vi Ventures because these individuals are following what it takes to be able to create leverage, what it takes to be able to create, the billions of dollars. That's being an investor. And that's exactly what capital venturists are. And so, you know what? HD, I like what I heard. I have a few questions. And you know what? If you just have a few more questions and you just want to get your questions answered, number one, you know what? Shoot me a DM and we'll go ahead and get you more details. You say, HD, I want to know more about the compensation plan because you know what? I'm big in direct sales. I have a huge organization under me, and you really got my mind thinking when you start talking about AI and technology, and you're in 160 countries, and this is a international platform in which over 70,000 entrepreneurs have already opted in, and they were just in pre-launch and they're launching this week. They go, I know from direct sales that the best time to be able to become, a part of a major platform in the direct sales industry is at the beginning. The early adopters normally, they make the most money. HD, I just want to know more about the compensation plan. Hey, send me a DM. I'd love to send you the corporate, compensation plan. And you know what? I would love to get you on the phone with the owner herself, Megan Lynch, or my best friend, Jerome Majette. Jerome Majette is actually one of Vibe's value-added course educators. He's going to be teaching about something they like to call attraction marketing. And, attraction marketing is such a big thing. The company that Jerome used to work with that teaches attraction marketing is the same company that Myron Golden, M-Y-R-O-N, Golden, that's where he learned, to do what he's doing all over social media. If you don't know who Myron Golden is, Google him. M-Y-R-O-N. Myron Golden used to be a pastor. He's an entrepreneur, and he talks constantly about opportunities just like that. For you to be able to be successful in this next generation, what you need to have is a digital product, okay? Because yes, there's always been money in the future in the land, the gold rush, farming, etc. But now everything is about digital real estate, and you need to have digital content if you're going to be able to be very successful in this next generation. And Myron Golden breaks it down what you need like no one I've seen before, and that's exactly what Vibe is giving you an opportunity to do. So if you like what you've seen, you say, hey, HD, I heard all I got to hear, brother. You know what you said makes sense. Tell me what I need to do to get started. DM me. I'll go ahead and send you a link. I'll go ahead and connect you with some of the top leaders in our company so that you can go ahead as well and get plugged in right away to the top mentors, in this particular business platform. And if number three, if you're saying, hey, HD, you know what? I'm not sure. It sounds good, and I do have a few questions, but I just kind of want to watch and see what you're going to do with this. Hey, that's perfect. All I got to say is get some popcorn and go get you a big drink, because I'm telling you, it's about to blow your mind when you see what God's doing with this platform. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this live short. I want to go ahead and get off. I want to respect your time. But I appreciate you for taking a look at this, and all those people who are watching live on Facebook, and all those people who are going to be, watching this live as well on my TikTok, YouTube, or IG platform. I appreciate you. God bless. You have a good evening.